And of course, modern photographers, to them, full frame is 35mm. I mean, 35mm isn't full frame. Full frame's 8x10s, medium format, large format. That's full frame. This talk of this tiny little strip of film being full frame is nonsense.
Yes.
So to talk about one nonsense being this big and Micro Four Thirds this is all nonsense. Hello and welcome to the Digital Camera World podcast. And each episode we're going to be here doing what photographers and camera geeks do, which is talk about gear, talk about hot trends in the industry, talk about troubleshooting some problems we've had, maybe us specifically, maybe problems that you folks have had and you need a bit of help with. And we really want this show to be not just a soapbox for you and me, although that's always a great thing to have. We really want to get interactive with you guys, so please do get in touch with us. All our contact details are in the description below. Make sure you click the like and the follow and the subscribe and all those kind of buttons to make sure you know when we've got a new episode coming. So first of all, Chris, let's tell the good people who we are and why we're talking about this. You want to go first?
So I'm Chris George. I've been writing about photography for 40 years. Been on Digital Camera World since we launched, and
back in the day,
my first camera didn't have autofocus, took 36 pictures, or ISO 64, and we're now in a very different world. And I've been following it since then.
It's a very small memory card for 36 pictures, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
What was your first camera, Chris?
First proper camera, Olympus OM10.
Good choice.
Good, affordable. One of the first aperture priority only SLRs of its day. Bought for me as a sort of, I think, 17th birthday present. That's sort of
that's a nice
that
present
sort of
for your
time,
birthday.
yes. And and got into it very quickly actually after that. So it did spur me on.
Okay, So I am James Artaius. I'm the editor-in-chief of Digital Camera World, where we both spend most of our days writing and talking about camera gear. I've been a photographer for, 30-something years now. My first camera was a Canon AE1. So we're both old school SLR folks.
Similar period.
My camera only took 36 pictures ago as well. I had to focus it myself, which is harder and harder with my eyesight these days. So I'm very grateful for modern cameras, but I'm sure as we'll talk about as the episodes go along, there's a lot to love and a lot to hate about modern cameras.
Exactly. Let's
go. So whether you're a beginner, whether you're a working pro, maybe you're looking at gear to upgrade, maybe you've got a problem to solve, maybe you just want to hear, maybe you just want to be part of an online camera club and have like-minded folks to chat to, please tune into us each and every episode and hopefully we'll have something fun to share with you, which is a nice little way to say, without further ado, let's get talking about some gear.
What should we talk about first, James?
Okay, so in focus. Did you know?
In focus
today. That's our first segment. Did you know half frame is back?
Half frame. Old school, new school. Combined in one.
Well, that's the thing. Half frame is back, but did anyone really ask for it to be back? So I guess a bit of backstory to this. In case everyone's kind of missed it, this is prompted by the fact that, as a lot of our conversations will be, Fujifilm have done something a little bit mad, which is always welcome. We like it when Fujifilm does something a bit mad. Basically, go back a little bit before that, half frame in general has come back. We'll explain exactly what that is in a minute. But half frame is a kind of photography that existed and kind of went away for a very long time.
Yeah.
And in the last few years, it's really come back because half frame photography, for those who don't know, it's basically... it takes a 35mm old school frame of film and it cuts it in half. So the outcome of that is you get...
twice as many pictures from your roll of film.
And with youngsters these days, getting back into film, also discovering it's actually quite expensive to buy film and process it. Now you can get twice as many shots of an old roll of film.
Oh, film's really expensive now.
I think...
I used to use Fuji slide film, $30 a roll now. Can't make out.
That's ridiculous.
No. It's, so... having something where you can get twice as many exposures from a roll film makes lots and lots of sense for people getting back to film photography.
It really does. So I think going back 3 or 4 years, we had the sort of first half-frame film cameras sort of come back. We had people like Kodak and doing the resurrected sort of Ektar cameras. Then lomography got into it a couple of years ago. Yep. But really where it sort of kicked off is last year with Pentax. The Pentax 17. So tell us about the Pentax 17, because that was kind of like, Pentax has always been a bit old school, right? But it really went guns blazing into old schoolness.
Pentax have been an old school name in photography. They haven't really got into mirrorless. They tried it once, went away. They've kept with doing compact cameras, with DSLR cameras, and they reintroduced the film camera, which is one of the first people to actually do that. Certainly first of the big name manufacturers to get back in film photography, and chose to do that with a simple compact camera and do it half frame. And it's called a 17 because the dimensions of a half frame negative is 17mm by 24mm. So just under half the size of a full frame.
Which also taps into something else we'll be talking about on this show a great deal, which is the rise and fall and rise again of compact cameras.
Well, quite absolutely, yes.
So the fact that they've sort of like hedged their bets by doing, let's go film, but let's also go affordable film and let's go compact.
Yeah.
The Pentax 17 was greeted incredibly enthusiastically. I mean, it was on the back order list for months and months and months and months and months, did really, really well. I think now the bloom is off the rose a little bit, I think because the audience is actually quite niche and quite small, but what we're getting now is we're moving from this idea of like, okay, we've resurrected half frame as a format. We've resurrected it in its film format.
Yeah.
So now Fuji has gone and done a bonkers thing, which has said, okay, half frame film's all well and good. Let's go half frame digital.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not half frame, is it?
Well,
For a start.
it's
not half frame because it's not film.
It's not technically half frame, no. So what we're talking about here is the Fujifilm X-Half, which is a camera announced a couple of months ago. And I when I say Fujifilm is doing something crazy, I mean that in the most loving way possible, because I find it joyous. We've got so many camera brands, right, that they just release black boxes with the sensor in. They all kind of do the same thing. Whereas Fujifilm, a bit like Sigma, they're just mavericks, right?
Well, the thing is, what are the good things about it? They've done something different. They've introduced a compact camera. I know we're going to probably talk a lot about compact cameras because they were on a big resurgence. So they brought back a compact camera. They killed off their compact cameras, brought in a high-end version, which we're going to talk about, the X100 6, and then they brought a more affordable camera in terms of the half, and for a wider audience. So that's good. And they've done something different with the design, which is also good. We're seeing lots of manufacturers bringing back compact cameras, which are essentially reskins of something from the 1990s.
Yes.
And we still don't like them, which is, not.
There's a reason they went away.
Exactly. But the X-Half. And also the key thing is, and the way it does play into the old half frame thing, is the vertical format. Not all half frame cameras were vertical formats.
No, they were not.
Because you can do it either way, whichever way you orientate them to design. But most of them were. So they gave you by default, a vertical frame. And this has done it because why has vertical framing become more popular, James?
I understand it's young people to blame, as is often the case these days.
It's that Mr. TikTok, isn't it?
It is Mr. TikTok. Things that are vertical orientation, which drives you and I a little bit crazy when it comes to outputting media. But yeah, things that go on social, things that are TikTok friendly, Facebook friendly, Instagram friendly, they tend to be upwards, not sideways, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a really great notion. Let's make a camera where the sensor is the wrong way up and you hold the camera up and the pictures come up the wrong way. So what else does the X-Half? I'm going to read off a couple of specs, right? Because the thing with the X-Half is really interesting. First of all, 1-inch sensor.
Yep.
So it's not quite half a sensor. The dimensions are a bit weird, but it's smaller, is the point being. So you've got a 1-inch sensor, vertical orientation, 17.7 megapixels. So
it's fine.
It's pretty respectable.
And, a 1-inch sensor isn't the smallest in a compact camera.
Quite.
There's lots of compacts and mobile phones around with much smaller sensors. So it is bigger.
So you still get good image quality out of that, with a few caveats, right? So the X-Half, 1-inch sensor, 17.7 megapixels, but no RAW. Doesn't shoot RAW.
Yep.
Doesn't shoot burst.
Yep.
Doesn't shoot 4K. So on the surface, right, you and me, we're in the office of a day, someone sends us a camera and we look at the specs and we go, oh, that's missing, that's missing, that's missing, that's probably terrible. But with this, we go, that's missing, that's missing, that's missing. This is kind of genius because this isn't a camera that's meant to shoot 120 frames and shoot footballers kicking the ball around.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to shoot 4K, 120p, slow motion, bullet time, whatever. It's to encourage us to shoot mindfully and shoot in a different way, right?
But doesn't everyone want to shoot 4K? Is that the issue?
Certain manufacturers would tell us that for sure. But what Fujifilm would do with this camera, right, which again is the madness that I love about it so much, is they're saying, right, let's change the way people approach photography.
Yeah.
Let's encourage people, for example, to explore diptychs, which is a kind of a bit of craft, a bit of camera craft that kind of maybe you do at art college, and then you do if you're a proper photographer. But in that intermediate, in between space, you don't really do that. So because of the vertical format, because of that, that's
quite cool, isn't it? That way that works. I'm sure you're going to go and talk about that for your specs list. I'm interrupting you. But,
Go ahead.
It's that diptych thing is because it's a compact camera that works in unison with your phone. And that's probably quite important, isn't it? Because some of those older compact cameras, there was a disconnect, wasn't it? You can't share things easily. It's not interactive with the digital world. But they have created a camera that, as I said to you earlier, it gamifies the whole idea of taking pictures, essentially making it fun in an interesting way.
It really does. And I think, again, the madness, the maverickness that Fuji have done with this is they've taken an idea. Not to say they stole the idea, they've certainly taken an idea that already existed with cameras like the Camp Snap and the Flashback 135, which is the idea that you have a camera that is kind of independent of anything else. And when you take photographs, the only way you can look at them is on your phone. So with the X-Half, there is a film camera mode. Guess what that does? So you choose your Fujifilm simulation, you put in your virtual roll of Astia or whatever, you choose your exposures, 32, 76, whatever, and then you are locked into that, right? You have to it's like having a roll of film and a camera. You have to take those pictures, and until you do, your camera doesn't do anything else. Yeah. And you can't chimp, so you can't check what you've just shot, and you can't look at the pictures afterwards. It sends them to your phone as if they're being developed at a lab, right? So you get that experiential process of, I've gone out mindfully, I'm not shooting 1 million frames because they're disposable. I'm going to be really intentional with what I shoot, and I don't even get to look at them straight away. I've got to wait until I've gone down to the chemist and got them developed, right?
And the implementation of that's really good because you can see it like as a contact strip. It kind of, references all those films. And I think one of the good things is you're not forced to take 36 images. If you want to come out early, you can, and change your mind and things. So that's also good because we have seen cameras that, certainly phone apps that forced you to do that process and see your pictures 2 days later.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
there's having shot things commercially with film. There's a joy to using film, but there's also the picking up your roll of film and seeing all 36 out of focus or all badly exposed, which I don't miss from the days of film.
There's the reality of that, isn't it? It's very romanticized now. It's very popular. Again, I'm going to say younger folks than myself are really getting to the idea of film. It's romantic and it's tactile and it's interesting. But yeah, if you're a working photographer, it's actually the bane of your existence. You'd really love the fact that you can see your picture on the back of the screen and you don't have to wait a day or a week to get your pictures back and have them all be terrible.
Yeah. Or drive 5 miles to the lab to get them processed,
If you're lucky. And if you've got a good lab.
Well, yeah.
Was not always the case. Yeah. So the X-Half, as we probably inferred, I think it's a work of genius, madness, wonderfulness. I'm a really big fan. What do you think? Is that a swing and a miss, a swing and a hit?
Well, I think it's good because it's a compact camera that's had some thought about it. It's new. It's a new type of camera, and it looks really nice.
It's lovely to look at.
It's Fujifilm's all recent cameras are all about looking retro, feeling good, really stylish, and that appeals to it. And they've continued that with the compact camera. So that's good. And if it encourages more people to get fun from photography, then that is a good thing. So
falling in love with photography.
Are we going to buy one?
I might.
Yeah. Yes.
I might. It's a camera I would buy.
Yeah.
Just cost of living and all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
Okay.
I would definitely consider that. That's a nice little leading line from one kind of compact camera to another. Let's dive into the gear bag to see what we've been playing with this week in our Gear Up segment.
Oh, yes. And this is a camera you've been playing with. You've done some reviews of it and taken some images with it, and not to give too much away. And what is it, James?
So we are talking about this chap right here. So this is the Canon PowerShot V1. PowerShot, a line with a long, proud heritage of a certain era, I guess, because PowerShot cameras, as we were just alluding to, a range of compact cameras from Canon that were, when, let's say, year 2000 era compact cameras were what they were, right?
Yep.
I guess for folks of my age, I would take them out on a night out, the way that we used phones.
Yes, yeah.
And now that we got phones, we don't need compact cameras, or we didn't.
Very true, yeah.
So I think Canon's last compact camera came out in about 2018. It was a G7X3, a G5X2. And then Canon just stopped. I think the whole industry stopped making compact cameras because
they were quite luxury cameras, weren't they? They weren't cheap. They weren't redesigned for someone to use for family occasions. They were aimed at a more enthusiastic photographer, weren't they?
Definitely. So, yeah, so let's not conflate. I don't want to confuse them here. When I say that they're like the 2000 era compact cameras were kind of a little bit cheap and nasty, that's not the PowerShot series of the sort of more recent years. Yeah. These were cameras that had great autofocus. They had good zoom lenses. Yeah. You could shoot nice 4K, and those were really popular with creators. But yeah, so from 2018, by this point, I think the market had kind of fallen out of compacts, right? Because it's the time, iPhones are everywhere. Samsung was doing its thing. Huawei, before the troubles, was doing its thing. And the idea of people buying a small camera to go out on a night out wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
So compacts kind of died. And then they kind of came back for various reasons. We talked about film cameras coming back, sort of small film cameras. What's really interesting to me is that recently Sony has reinvigorated compact cameras with a completely new category of stuff, which is the compact vlogging camera.
Yes.
And that's kind of what this thing is for. So the Sony ZV line has been massively popular, and it's really confusing as well because there's so many different models.
So it's video-centric, not still-centric.
And that's the difference, right? So I guess the engineers or the decision makers have gone, okay, everyone's got a camera they can take snaps with on a night out or picture the dinner or picture the holiday. What they really want is something to shoot good quality vlogs and videos with.
Yeah.
Which leads us to this chap, which is Canon PowerShot V1. So it's the new generation of PowerShot cameras. But it's not necessarily the compact we were expecting, because to us, compacts are stills cameras, right? With big, long lenses and fit in your pocket.
Yeah, I think we were looking for them to do a new version of the G series, perhaps, just to update that. Yeah. And because the market, compact cameras have come back for all sorts of reasons. People rediscovering them getting trendy on various social platforms. But I think it's also that feeling of people want to disconnect the use of their phone, which runs their whole life with their image making. So they're using a separate device for it. And I think that's, whether you find one that your parents used in a drawer and bring it out, or you buy one. But there's just so few people making compact cameras. And Canon hadn't stopped, but they were making far fewer than they were. And they've come back to it with this, not quite what we expected. Not quite.
So again, for a little bit of context, in case you were not like Chris and myself, who live and breathe this every day, if you're somebody who's a little bit more peripheral to what's going on in the industry, compact cameras came back in a huge way, mainly thanks, again, to Fujifilm being a bit out there. The X100V at the time just blew up on TikTok. Every blooming TikToker was using it, talking about it, shooting with it, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when everyone realized, oh, darn, people are buying compact cameras. None of us make modern ones anymore.
Well, yes, and they were making compact cameras that obviously they were making money from as well, which is the important thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is they were producing a camera which was reassuringly expensive,
exactly,
one might say, and doing really well with it. And it's such that people waiting 3-4 months to get hold of them.
Well, such was the demand, that you had the Fuji X100s were sold out everywhere. Even premium compacts like the Leica compacts, whether it's the Deluxe or the Q series, which are serious money.
Yeah.
People were so into this idea of compact cameras. So anyway, compact cameras came back. We thought they were going to come back specifically photographically. Canon and Sony went, nah, mate, it's all about vlogging now, vlogging and video. So this guy, the PowerShot V1, it is a compact camera. It's got a zoom lens, as you can see. Nothing surprising there. What might be surprising is the extent of the zoom, because this is a 16 to 50 millimeter lens.
Okay.
So what's that good for?
Wide to standard.
Wide to standard.
16, very good for framing yourself.
Yep.
Which no doubt you come on to. And, it's the old standard lens. First lens I ever had, 50mm.
Yeah.
So it's nothing wrong with it, but you expecting something different?
Yeah, because in my brain, the compacts would say they're going to be like 24 to 100, or even, well, not bridge cameras, the ones that go silly super zooms, but something that's a bit more versatile that will shoot anything. Whereas I guess with this, it's a focal range that is very specifically aimed at videographers.
Photographers can use it. Something in Canon's defense is it has got a zoom.
It does have a zoom, you're right.
The X106 didn't have a zoom.
No.
It's fixed. 35mm.
So if you don't shoot 35mm, you can't get much.
You have one crop.
Yeah.
And this gives you a variety of things which are useful, whether you want more, particularly at the telephoto end.
Yeah.
But at least it has a zoom, which I think is a notable point.
It does have a zoom. And I guess the 16 to 50 is useful for things like landscapes and everyday social photography, holiday snaps, selfies. 50mm, as you say, it's the standard length. You're not going to get blurry backgrounds like you would in a 51.8 nifty 50 lens. But so it's useful for a certain kind of photographer. It must be said that it's got things like 30 frames a second burst shooting, which is madness for a compact camera. Like, I don't think you really need that, but if you do want to take a picture of your dog catching a frisbee at 30 frames a second, you're going to get one in focus. The autofocus is really good on this camera, but again, it does stills on top of video. The main thing is video. So we're talking about 4K 30p that's oversampled from 5.7K. Lovely, nice crisp pictures. 4K 60 that's got a crop. It's not the end of the world, but cropping in a little bit changes the focal length, the focal behavior, obviously. It shoots in things like log mode. It's got built-in ND filter. It's got you can see it's got a dead cat or a wind muffler, whatever you might prefer to call this thing here. And beneath that is a lovely, wide, big, chunky integrated microphone. So unlike most cameras with a built-in microphone, the quality in this one is actually good.
You mean you don't need an accessory microphone? Is that what you're saying?
You always should, right?
Yeah.
No, you I don't need to tell you that. Yeah. You always should have an external mic because you just should, because the audio is never going to be as good on an internal mic as it is an external one. But if you don't have one, I was amazed. I mean, I took this out on the top of the White Horse where I live in Wiltshire. It's it's a big chalk horse carved into a hill, but it's quite high. It's quite windy.
Very windy.
It's very windy
there.
And it picked up no wind noise, and the quality of the audio was, again, it could have been clearer with a lapel mic or something, but for a built-in integrated mic, it's perfectly fine. I would be happy putting that on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. So it's got everything going for it. It's got active cooling, so built-in fan. So it shoots, I think if you don't have the fan turned on, it shoots 25 or 55 minutes. But if you're going to shoot video, you probably keep the fan turned on. You can shoot unlimited 4K 60.
No one wants to see a video that lasts 25 minutes, do they? Apart from this one.
Apart from this one. Apart from this one.
Take.
This one and streamers. Streamers like a bit of turning the camera on and talking nonsense, going making tea and things. So, we've got a really, really formidable compact camera. It's basically the equivalent of the Sony ZV-1 or the Sony ZV-1 II. Specs are kind of very, very parallel. This is Canon's version. For a bit more context, so beyond this one compact camera, the Canon V series does incorporate two other bodies, which is the Canon PowerShot V10, which is kind of like a cigarette packet sized camera. It's basically my first vlogging camera, and I don't mean that pejoratively. It's really, really good. It's really simple to use. Plug it in, turn it on, great. Yeah. And then there's the EOS R50V, which you and I went to play with at Canon HQ, which I thought it was a nice little camera. And if you
interchangeable lenses, more scope to expand and do funky things.
Basically that. So if you outgrow an all-in-one system and you want to change your lenses for creative effect or blah 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 ... the R50V is the one. But I mean, as an all-in-one, take one thing with you, film everything. Don't have to worry about the external mic. You should, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You've got a lens. You don't have to worry about changing lenses. It shoots 4K, does log, got an ND filter. It kind of does everything you need.
Yeah.
The only thing
in a form factor that it is like a compact camera, isn't it? It's not, some of those early ones, a PowerShot V10, is that right?
Yeah.
It's an unusual design for a camera.
It is. Yeah? It is unusual. I know. I liked it. Not everyone did.
This is conventional, isn't it? I know it's a camera. It smells like a camera. It works like a camera.
Yeah, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It looks like one. It's got the flippy screen. It's got tally lights and stuff, so you can see yourself filming it. I think the only thing against it, and it's not really a thing against it, but it's a problem, as you're saying, about using the internal mic. So I don't know if it's going to pick up here. I want to see if you can hear it. Right. When you zoom in and out, I'm holding the camera up to the microphone for those of you not watching along at home. Now, what the camera doesn't hear that, but it does hear a thunk at the end. So when you're recording, it'll go, so you hear the noise if you zoom in and out.
But when I used to write about filmmaking, you say you never zoom while you're recording.
But what if somebody wants to
start a new shot?
It is, right. Yeah. You can put a cut or just, get your mate to do it.
The videographer's laughing.
That's right. Well, yeah, that's what this lot are for. Yeah. It's like, come on, make me look bigger, make me look stronger, make Chris look smaller. But yeah, that aside, The IBIS, you were talking about, you were impressed with the stabilization on this, right? Because I was walking around that hill.
You were walking up a hill, which was good.
Almost falling
doing
down.
some exercise.
No, getting me steps
being blown away,
Yeah.
going out your front door,
I know.
driving your car with it,
yeah.
and it looked pretty stable to me.
Pretty stable to me. Some people, though, and this is not unique to this camera, it's common to IBIS, in body image stabilization, if you're not familiar with the acronym, it's common with stabilization on any wide-angle lens, is you do get this jello effect at the edges. So if you're shooting at 16 mil, it's pretty wide, and if you are wobbling about, the compensation is going to look a bit funny in the edges of frame. It doesn't bother me, and also I don't look at the edges of the frame looking for problems with video. If you're that person who does, maybe this isn't the camera for you. But apart from that,
it's not meant for that, is it?
not really.
Different.
But I think, all in all, I think this is a good compact camera comeback for Canon. I would like to see a stills equivalent that's a bit more maybe what you and I are expecting.
One thing that's slightly is going back to something we said earlier. It is a horizontal format video, isn't it? It's a 3:2 ratio sensor, so it's not even 16:9, and it's not open gate, so you've got less wiggle room for doing a TikTok edit from your videos. Does that worry you, James?
It worries me insofar as I'm a nerd and I like open gate as a theory, but I'm aware that there's a very small genre of nerds that really need open gate. Open gate, for those who don't know, we'll probably do a special at some point.
Well, yeah.
It uses the entire readout of the sensor. So you're not just shooting 16:9. It captures the whole shape of the sensor. Therefore, in post, you can crop it down to 9:16 if you want to, or a square frame.
It just gives you more latitude for cropping in post, which is what it's about. It's a fancy word for something that just allows you to switch between different formats, doesn't it?
It's like medium format video.
Well, exactly. And I think if in a world where some video is vertical and some of it is horizontal, having something that allows you to switch between the two is going to increasingly become a good thing. So people might not want it today, but could want it next year when they discover what it is.
Yeah, you're right. It would future-proof the camera for sure. But as it stands, 16:9 camera shoots vertical video, as all cameras do these days. I think Canon's cracked it with this for a certain kind of person, for a video vlogging oriented person, or somebody who just wants to shoot landscapes and sort of family snaps and things. What do you think? Is this a swing and a miss, swing and a hit?
Yeah, well, again, because I want to make this consistent, because I'm not always very positive, but I congratulate someone for producing a compact camera that is different to the norm,
got its zoom,
and creating something else. And as you say, Sony have had great success with their equivalent model, and so it's good that they got some competition. So I think it's halfway between the two.
Half frame, halfway between the two. Fittingly enough, we've been talking a lot about half frame film, half frame sensors. This is a camera with a smaller sensor as well. This leads us nicely into this week's troubleshooting topic.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We're going to disagree on this one, aren't we?
Oh, great. I love it when we disagree. This is good. It's like an old couple having a whinge at dinner.
Yeah.
This is just our daily life, basically, isn't it? Yeah. So I get asked this question all the time. I'm a Micro Four Thirds user, which invites a kicking in and of itself. How do you get depth of field from these smaller sensors? Some people say, can you get depth of field from it? What they mean is shallow depth of field.
You mean limited depth of field?
Can you get blurry backgrounds is what people want.
Every camera gives you depth of field.
That's correct, yes. Can you get shallow depth of field with a small sensor? The answer, of course, is yes.
Yes.
It's not hard, but people like to make life difficult and they like to complain about things. So there you go. I know you're more of a full frame man, so you probably don't bump into this quite as often as I do. But it is one of the issues.
Well, you all use cameras with smaller sensors. I use an iPhone a lot, and I use it for taking pictures, particularly for reference. So as I go on my travels and launches and days out with the family and things. So, which is a really small sensor. So a Micro Four Thirds sensor isn't that small, is it?
No.
It's bigger than you will get in most compact cameras. Far bigger than anything you get in a phone. So that's a starting point.
Yeah.
It is significantly smaller than full frame. It's significantly smaller from APS-C, which is the interim format between the two. So, by default, by theory, physics, you have more depth of field at any setting than you would get with the larger sensor.
And I think, because this question is quite a loaded one, right? Because the people asking this question are generally doing it because they're criticizing the format. it is usually directed at Micro Four Thirds. It's rarely shouted at APS-C.
Yeah.
Can Micro Four Thirds get blurry backgrounds? They're asking that because they expect the answer to be no.
Yeah.
And this comes back to this tribalism when full frame started becoming a thing. And of course, modern photographers, to them, full frame is 35mm. I mean, 35mm isn't full frame. Full frame's 8x10s, medium format, large format. That's full frame. This talk of this tiny little strip of film being full frame is nonsense.
Yes.
So to talk about one nonsense being this big and Micro Four Thirds this is all nonsense. But yeah, to that point, the smaller the sensor is, the smaller the film is, the inherently more difficult it will be to get a deep depth of field. Let's get a little bit technical, a little bit geeky. Yeah. Basically, the way that a sensor or a camera or film renders depth of field, it's nothing to do with the sensor. It's nothing to do with the film, right? It's to do with the lens, all to do with the lens. So if you have a smaller sensor, so a full frame, 35mm, that's what we call a 1:1. APS-C is 1.5 times. We're talking about crop factor. So smaller the sensor is, the greater the crop factor is, which applies to your lens, to your focal length. So I'm going to use MFT, right, because it's easy as maths. A Micro Four Thirds sensor has a 2 times crop.
Yep.
That means if I want to shoot something at 50mm, I've got to put a 25mm lens. 25mm times 50mm, okay? Yep. So get the equivalent field of view, I use a 25mm lens. But that doesn't, even though that's giving me an effective 50mm field of view, it doesn't give me the 50mm aperture effect depth of field. It gives me the 25mm, right? That's where people get confused.
I think the confusion that comes from the fact when we talk about focal length, we took the measurement in millimeters nowadays of the lens. But actually, when we're talking about focal length, most of the time, we're talking about angle of view. And that's the confusion. People can talk about telephoto, and we're talking about an angle of view. It's not actually a focal length.
Right.
So, and we're forever trying to compare it to, 35mm, 100mm or larger is a telephoto, 35mm or wider is a wide angle. And it's the angle of view that's important, not the actual focal length. So that creates, I think, some of the confusion, because they're conflated as being the same, and not in case of. So what are the key factors for depth of field? Is aperture, focus distance, and your focal length. Yeah, and your focal length will be on your iPhone would be 2mm, and on your
non-iPhone
camera,
bigger thing.
So try and work out what it was on an 8x10 camera, but on a full frame camera, be 35mm. It's that sort of thing. So it's a big difference in numbers, but it's the actual scientific focal length of that lens that's important.
It's
all
about
to the equation that comes up with how much depth of field you've got.
I think we collectively, not you and me specifically, although maybe it is you and me specifically, anyone who writes about photography, journalists, people who write textbooks, and you've written your share of textbooks as well, we are somewhat implicit in the guilt in this, because we often have to play the synonym game. We don't want to write focal length over and over again. We don't want to write angle of view. So sometimes we interchange terms, and sometimes people read into that as if they are the same thing, and they're not. We're using them interchangeably in specific contexts. So I'll put it in my hands and go, okay, I've probably written an article that made people think, but effective this isn't the same as changing that, which may or may not be true.
So you've got a problem, haven't you? Well, you got a problem. You got to be. You are the person being an old time Olympus MFT user.
Yes.
Of it making excuses for the system in terms of grace. So how are we going to solve your problem?
Before we do, right? If we're going to say that the benefits of having greater depth of field, because there are benefits.
Yes.
If you're someone who shoots macro, for example, you might really appreciate having a bit more, stuff in focus. If you're someone, as I've had the misfortune of doing, and you photograph weddings, it's a bad idea. Don't do that. It's a terrible idea. You photograph weddings, and you are invariably in a venue with really bad lighting. If you're lucky, it's a sunny day and you're outside, or you've got big open windows. But a lot of the time, you're in town halls, or you're in little cathedrals, little churches, and you got to shoot wide open. You got to shoot 1.8. But 1.8 and getting the bride and the groom in focus, good luck with that. But if you've got inherently more depth of field, it becomes easier. So what people always say, Micro Four Thirds, no good in low light. Mate, shoot a wedding with it, you find out right quick it is. But beyond the strengths of having great depth of field, Micro Four Thirds inherently does render less than an equivalent 35mm setup would.
Yeah, I think, going back to what we were talking about earlier, video, more depth of field is often useful because people move. because that's the idea in video. So having more bits in focus without having to worry. If you're shooting Hollywood things, you've got someone measuring the distance, you can have a really narrow plane of focus. That's great, but you have to control everything to make sure that something doesn't go out of focus.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to move to prove it, but I could go out of focus now.
If we wanted to make these guys' lives difficult, we really could. But yeah, so all those things being equal, if we assume that it is a weakness, that the setup is going to be a little bit more difficult to run in depth of field, what do we do about that? There's a few things we can do, really, aren't there? First of all is get a faster lens. It's always the easiest thing to do. Faster lens with a longer focal length, or a longer equivalent focal length, I should say. So shooting at 25mm f5.6, I think any camera is probably going to struggle to get subject separation at that.
Yeah.
But stick a 75mm 1.8 on a Micro Four Thirds camera, you times that by 2, so it's a 140mm lens. All of a sudden, you get that magnification, you get the creamier, blurrier, bokeherier backgrounds. So that's one thing. Change your lens, longer focal length, and faster aperture. The other thing you can do, if I took a portrait of you, right? I don't know what the cameras can see. Behind Chris is a lovely, possibly artificial looking plant.
Definitely artificial.
It's probably, I think so. Living in this room, Luminec. So if I took a portrait of you here, I could shoot with any aperture I want. That's going to be in focus, right? It's too close to you.
Yeah.
So what I either do is move you further this way or move the plant further that way. Because the greater the distance is between you and the background, the blurrier the background's going to be. It's actually quite a lot of things you can do.
Well, exactly. And I think coming back to your point about, using a faster lens or a longer lens, that's not as big a physical object as if you were using a bigger format.
Yeah.
One of the advantages of MFT is the lenses are smaller. So having a faster lens or a longer lens becomes more practical. OM system, as we should call them now, have got some, very long telephoto zooms, which, you just couldn't buy for full frame. Certainly not at a price less than a family car.
That's right.
And so you have the option to use a much longer lens. So that's good for restricting.
It is.
Instead of shooting a portrait, let's use the equivalent thing again. Traditionally you talk about like an 85mm for shooting portraits. With an Olympus system, you could use a 200mm, and that would give you quite shallow depth of field.
It looks lovely, I mean, I have done before. You've got to shout a bit louder because you're like, oh, chin down a bit.
Couldn't do it in this studio, but
you'd have to knock a hole in that wall.
But it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, the size advantages are real. This is going a little bit off the topic, but I think, an overlooked advantage is that you can use a big boy portrait lens if you like, and it's not going to weigh you down. It doesn't have to be on a tripod.
Tell you something else about using a longer telephoto lens. You're actually showing us a much smaller part of the background. So that therefore gives you more choice because you make a really quite small change in framing and you could pick it out a different part of the background, and that makes it less obvious. Because that's what we're talking about. We can talk about the creaminess of bokeh and stuff like that. But for most people, what you want to do is you just want it blurred so you can't see what it is. Right. You don't want to see the spectators on the other side of the track. You're taking something, or the trees behind the bird you're taking a photograph. You just want
the plant behind Chris George.
Yes, exactly. But if you take a longer lens, you've got a narrow section of that background, and then by relatively small changes, you can pick a bit of background that's more suitable. So that helps. That's one thing.
Let's be devil's advocate here. I've got my answer because I've been saying this for years. But shouldn't you just shoot full frame then? Is it, rather than doing all this, move the plant, move Chris, knock a hole in that wall, get a long lens? Shouldn't you just shoot full frame? Is that?
Well, I suppose if you're shooting portraits all day long, that's all you're doing, and if you're doing commercially, then the answer probably yes, isn't it? But if you're doing other things, MFT is great for wildlife photography, for instance, because it's smaller. Those big long lenses you do are easier for you to carry. It gives you more choice in the amount of kit you can take with you because all the kit is smaller.
Smaller, so you can take more of it. Lenses are twice as long.
It's not really about the cameras. It's about the lenses, I think. But it's that system, the weight of the system. And as we get older and our backs get worse, it's a factor. And particularly if you've got to take those heavier optics with you.
I can't carry a camera on a strap anymore. I was in a car accident a few years ago. I physically can't carry anything around my neck, but I can carry a little Micro Four Thirds camera over my shoulder.
Yeah.
I can't carry a big boy camera anymore. Just can't. Too old and knackered. But I think my response to that question, should I just shoot full frame then? Again, it's always asked with a little bit of, well, I shoot full frame, so aren't I correct? My answer would be like, well, shouldn't you just shoot medium format? Shouldn't you just shoot large format? Shouldn't you just get some glass plates out? It's a stupid argument, isn't it? You're just like, well, yeah, why don't we all just put a camera on the moon and photograph from there with like a 10,000 mil? It's just stupid. Yeah. So yeah, you can but shoot full frame if you want to. Shoot Micro Four Thirds if you want to. Shoot with a compact camera if you want to. Just shoot what works for you.
And the context of where the industry at the moment, MFD is not actually a small sensor.
Exactly that. It must be remembered that it's not something that is too small to work. It's not, I've used this kit professionally. Lots of people use it professionally. You can use it within its niche. You can shoot lovely portraits with it if you want to, but you can shoot lovely portraits on your phone if you want to. There's the tool is kind of less important than the person behind it, than the tool behind the tool, I guess. At least when I'm taking a picture.
At the end of the day, and I'm sure, you're a great advocate for this, you always need more than one camera.
You do.
So like you have both because you've got a full frame camera as well.
That's
obviously.
Right. Yeah. So, well, yeah. Why settle at one? If less is more, think how much more would be. That's what I always say. Well, I mean, if you have got any troubles that you would like us to shoot, maybe it's a technical question, maybe it's a creative question, maybe it's just something you're like, I want to hear what these two idiots think about this. Please do get in touch with us in the description below. Leave us a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Keep it polite, keep it nice. Otherwise, we won't listen to you because we're like that. But yeah, so that's great. It's been lovely to have you here with us on this episode of the Digital Camera World podcast. On behalf of Chris George, because he can't speak for himself.
That's me.
Thank you for tuning in, whether you're listening to us audio or you're watching us on YouTube. Thank you very much. Don't forget to ring the bell, press the button, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff to make sure that you can F8 and be there for our next episode. Goodbye for now.
Nice.